Hello everyone. First of all, our group would like to express our appreciation for you taking the time to watch our video presentation. As you can tell from our title, our group will discuss social connected series. You have seen our group member. Now I would like to draw your attention to our content right now, and here is our content. And I would like to turn over control and give flow of the work session to Cheng Ling as a member of our team.
Greeting teachers and everyone, I'm Cheng Ling. I'm going to talk about the social cognitive theory. It focuses on the learning that focus on the change in behavior and thinking which affect the environment by observing others. For example, your friend just passed scholarship to study abroad, so it inspire you, it influence you, not because like you copy from them. You see their action that they try hard for in order to pursue higher education, so you just want to do like them too in order to get better results. So you try hard to study hard to. It's divided into 6 parts. The first one is reciprocal determination. It is the interaction between people, environment, and behavior. Second one is behavior capability. It is the person's actual ability in order to perform action. The third one is observational learning, modeling, whether we can reproduce by observing other behavior or not. The fourth one is reinforcement. You yourself who want to continue or discontinue by doing this action or not. The fifth one is expectation. It is subjectively from one person to one person. And last one is self-sufficiency. It is the level of person of confidence in order to commit the action. Now I want to comparing the similarity of behaviorism and social cognitive theory. So it's similar to each other in 3 ways. The first one is referred to experience. It focuses heavily on experience by observing others, whether to imitate or not. The second one is the concept of reinforcement and punishment, it including expectation, perception, or belief. And final one is the feedback, that is important aspect for learning in order to the learner or the student to realize and what to improve. Let's come to the definition of both of it. So behaviorism is focused on the change on by observing other people behavior. And for example, you want to imitate Taylor Swift because they sing so beautifully, but the other one, social cognitive theory, it is the mental process changing that lead to different behavior, which means that you wanna you observe, but you lead to different behavior from the model. For example, you still see Taylor Swift sing beautifully and you want to imitate her, but at this point you try your best to memorize the lyric and then try to sing. Overall, the role of expectation has its advantage. It's just not as behaviors do, they just imitate, but this one, social cognitive theory, create expectation. For example, you want to pass IFR entrance exam, so you study hard, you study for extra class before exam happening, you read the book and try to do more exercise. So your expectation is to pass that exam. It is reciprocal causation. Social cognitive theory suggesting that the person, factors, environments, and behavior are interdependent on each other. And for example, both parts has bad exam, so it is personal factor which lead her to try harder and form a new habit in order to pass the examination. for the environment in order to pass the examination. And for behavior, it is forming a new habit. Finally, I want to talk about the value of how this idea can be used in order to promote teaching and learning. For students, they can use social cognitive theory in order to follow good example to improve themselves. For teachers, they use it for borrowing ideas and sharing each other. They can use feedback to know what they are lack of and has strong determination, as well as improve both teacher and student ability to observe better in order to follow the others. And that is all for my presentation. Thank you so much for watching and listening.
Good afternoon, teacher. I'm Vicdon, one of the members for this presentation that is responsible for modeling and outcome of it. So let's start with modeling. Modeling refers to general term that refer to behavior, cognitive and affective change deriving from observing the action of others. For example, you got a chance to join a grade A conference, like to listen to that grade A student share experience, what they have to do in order to get A, like you listen and take note in order to be outstanding like. There are three types of modeling. We have direct, symbolic, and synthesized. So let's start with direct. Direct modeling refers to an individual attempt to imitate behavior or thinking of life model. For example, like children, they learn to add numbers together by seeing her mother using their finger to count numbers together. Like the mother asks them to add 2 with 3, like do a sum, like 2 plus 3 equal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the answer is 5. Move on to symbolic modeling. Symbolic modeling refers to the way people imitate behavior or thinking displayed by characters in book, television, movie, or even from the internet. For example, like you go to watch a movie at the cinema, like Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and you really like the main characteristic of the main character, Steel Richard, the Captain America, and you want to grow up like him. Like you want to be a leader, you have the leadership, you be honest and serious with work. Move on to the last modeling, synthesized modeling. Synthesized modeling refers to the way people combine behavior observed in different art. For example, like the children use the chair to get up and open a cupboard door. Because he see his brother use chair to get up to get something upon their height, and seeing his mother open a cupboard door. Moving on to another point, it is outcome of modeling. There are 4 outcomes according to the book. Number 1 is learning new behavior. It is quite simple like that. When you imitate or observe the other's action, you will make some change in your behavior, or you will learn something new. Like for example, previous example, like you go to listen to grade A student, so you will make some change in your habit in order to perform well in your studying. Number 2, facilitating existing behavior. In here, you don't learn something new, but you make some change in your behavior. For example, like you watch the movie, like for example, Avenger Endgame. At the final scene, you say that the Iron Man snapped in order to save the world from Thanos. So you see everyone stand up and give applause to the Iron Man. So you know how to stand up, and you also know how to do an applause. So you just join the other. It is with this the why. You say that you have changed your behavior in order to join the other, or to be like modeling, see the modeling by other. 3, changing in habitation. Unlike the previous 2 outcomes that focus on behavior, changing in habitation tend to focus more on cognitive. which is focused even more on socially unacceptable behavior, which is either strong or weak. For example, like if the class is a student that made the class noisy is being punished, so you make every student in the class tend to do more or less noisy in the class, which make the it is a strong inhabitation. But when the one that made the class noisy is not being punished, so every student tend to make the class even more noisy, that make it big inhabitation. Last but not least, number 4 is arousing emotion. By observe another action, you just not focus on the outside, you refer to the activity, but also the inside refer to their emotion. Like for example, like you see two students sitting next to each other. One is study hard and another one is just normal. So the one that is study hard is the emotion that you are trying to use them as your modeling, but the one that who is just normal in studying is the one that you are experiencing.
Hello lecturers and hello everyone again. I am Dajirat and I'm going to continue from Vidun. So after knowing about the types of the models and the outcomes of models, in this part I'm going to talk about the effectiveness of the model. So we are going to look at 3 factors that influence the effectiveness of models. The first one is perceived similarity. Perceived similarity here can be defined as the view that individual he or she sees other as similar to the group or belong to a group by looking at some relevant characteristics such as experience, background, or ability or skills that they perceive. So perceived similarity is also related to like trust, which means that if people within the group they share some things in common, they tend to like trust each other a lot. So for example, a group member who see themselves as agreeable, and they also see other people as agreeable as well. So within the group, they tend to communicate well rather than they see each other negatively. So this is about the perceived similarity. And moving on to the second factor is the perceived competence. Perceived competence here can be explained as the extent that people has the quality in order to make them become successful. So it also relates to the similarity factors as well, because despite the common thing that they share in common, they also tend to follow the models that can help them to improve themselves, or they can help them to become more skillful. So for example, in a classroom, low perform students tend to follow outstanding students' behavior or learning styles, because they believe that by following the outstanding student learning style, they can achieve better performance in class. So in this example, we can see that even though they share something in common, which is the art students, but many students believe to follow the role or the styles of the outstanding student rather than low perform students. And moving on to the third point, which is about the third factor, which is about perceived status. In this point, people tend to follow the model that they believe that have great status, so that have influence in the societies, for example, such as professional athlete, entertainment stars, or other people that have influence in the society. So when those people they spread themselves from the industry and move to other places such as school, those people tend to enjoy the prestige or enjoy their privilege that they have, and many people will tend to look up to them and make them as their role model. So this is the 3 factors that influence the effectiveness of models. Moving on to the next part, I'm going to talk about process involved in learning from a model. So there are four main process. The first one is attention, and attention here refers to if a learner is going to learn anything or grab something from a model, he or she must pay attention to it and pay attention to the behavior that each models display to them. And the second one is the retention. So retention here refers to being able to remember what the model has given to them and what they experience from the model. So if they cannot remember what the model taught them, it is less likely that they can imitate or follow what the model had taught them. And the third one is reproduction. And this process, it is when the learner try to produce something that they can observe from or they can learn from the model based on their own memory. And the last one is motivations. Motivation here, it can be one of the important things, because if there is no motivations from the beginning, there is no reasons why learner try to imitate or try to follow each model, and they also know attentions as well. So it is also important to have motivations, and without the absence of motivations, I believe that there is no all the process happening. Yeah, and that is all from my part. The next presenter will continue the presentations.
You have heard from that by explaining the effectiveness of the models. I hope you all can get some ideas from this one before we come to the next point, which is the some core concept in SUSOT connective series. Now we will start from the vigorous learning. Vigorous learning, or we can call observational learning, occur when the person is motivated to learn by watching someone else work and be rewarded. To be short, vigorous learning is the process of learning from other people's behavior, such as we imitate other people's actions after observing them do it and seeing success. At the same time, if we witness other receive punishment, we will avoid from the acting in this way. For example, if a student may concern with the deadline and attendance, since it could directly affect their grades and result in the score deduction immediately, so they begin to finish and follow the instruction properly. And if we talk about the social media, we have many influencers such as Heavisa or Senior. We always follow and start to interact in what they review, such as the Senior always review the skincare product, and we actually saw she has the good skin, and of course we can trust her, and we start to follow what she has. Now we move on to the second part, which is the non-occurrence or expected consequences. You have known this role of expectation from Chen Liang. I hope it is easy for you to understand the part. Expectation here refer to the anticipated consequences that the person has already behaviors. People expect the consequences of the action before engaging in the behavior. The expectation can influence whether or not someone completes the behavior successfully. For example, a student who may not be motivated by achieving the high grades may place a lower value on taking the step because they consider that they don't have any potential to do it, and they cannot trust on themselves for achieve it. Moreover, when we talk about the consequence, we will talk about the reward. When rewards don't happen, we perceive them as a punishment. So what it means? At the same time, it is unexpected punishment did not happen. People often feel reinforced for the behavior. Like I will give you example. Like teacher give you a quiz for students to practice, and they will not get any score or any reward anything. So some students might feel less effort to do it and think it the quiz is the punishment and start to ignore it and no motivation to do it. Now we turn to the last part of mind, which is the self-regulation. Self-regulation is the process of accepting responsibility for and taking the control of one's own learning. Self-regulation is divided by the three types. The first part is about the emotional regulation, which is mean the being able to regulate emotion is important since our emotions are closely connected to how we think and feel. Our thoughts and feelings help us to decide how the best to respond to a situation and what action we should take. For example, we are going to take the children. Mostly the children are hardly to listen to us all the time. Sometimes they might be loud in the classroom. So we should know how to control our emotion and how to manage with them with the best way to avoid them, use the any bad word or any the wrong action to with them. And secondly, about the social self-regulation, which involves thinking about thinking and start with the awareness of our short emotions, anxieties, and the role they play in how we interpret other words and action. For example, if we would like to make a friend with someone, we should know how to start talking with them, how to use the word with them. Like another one is about the group work. When we are doing the group work, we should understand our other member and start to know how to communicate with them to have complete the work successfully. For the last point about the self-regulation. By self-regulation, they gain the control, which is ability to control ourselves, in particularly one emotion and desire, especially in the difficult situation. Self-regulation is important for the student learning because it makes students less dependent on the teachers and allows them to take control of their own learning. For example, students who learn to collect or learn and work at the same time, they should know how to manage the time correctly. So they know how to set the goal and manage the time to finish the school task or any work task, even though they are busy at the work at another school or the workplace. Last but not least, it has not the end of the self-regulation part, but I would like to take your attention and give the responsibility to our teammate Dina to help demonstrate this part more. Thank you.
Okay, so hello teachers and everyone. My name is Dina and thank you Linda for sharing. Now I will be talking about self-regulated learners. So self-regulated learning is the process of setting personal goals combined with the motivations, thought processes, strategies, and behaviors that leads to reaching the goals. Self-regulated learning includes 4 components, which are goal setting, self-monitoring, self-assessment, and strategy use. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about goal setting. Goal setting is the first component of self-regulated learning. So goal setting provides directions and measuring progress. People often model their behavior and goals after others they see succeeding. However, it can be challenging to implement goal setting with students as they need to commit to challenging but realistic goals, and they are more likely to be committed to goals they set for themselves rather than goals set by others. Many students struggle with motivation to set goals, and when they do that, the goals are often simple and low level. Okay, so the next part, let's talk about self-assessment. So, self-assessment is one of the components of self-regulated learning. So it helps us determine the extent to which our goals are being met. For example, if you jog 5 miles on Sunday, 3 on Monday, 5 on Tuesday, and 5 more on Thursday, you know that you will need to get 7 more miles by Saturday to reach your goal of 25 miles for the week. And in this case, self-assessment can contribute to motivation and personal satisfaction. Reaching the goal is satisfying, and the more challenging within the goal, the more satisfying reaching the goal will be. In fact, the more time you reach your weekly goal, the more motivated you will be to attain it in the future. So in here, self-assessment can also help solve the problem of students not wanting to set goals or wanting to set easily attainable goals. As they see progress toward reaching their goals, their motivation will increase and they will be more likely to commit to other goals as well in the future. And the next component is strategy use. So strategy use connect actions to our goals. To be effectively self-regulated learners, they must be able to match effective strategies to their goal. For example, if a first grader practices more on spelling words he doesn't know than on those he can already spell, he is being strategic. Helping students become self-regulated learners is powerful but demanding. For example, students need a great deal of help in setting challenging but realistic goals, and students will initially be good at monitoring their own progress, conducting self-assessment, and selecting appropriate strategy. So in here, we talk about cognitive behavior modification. So this is the procedure that begin with cognitive modeling. For example, if a student is being disorganized and scattered, for example, you model both the actions and the thinking involved in setting an appropriate goal, such as bringing a pencil, notebook, paper, textbook, and complete homework assignment to class each day. You also model the process of monitoring progress and assessing the extent to which your students is meeting the goal. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide, which talk about diversity, learner differences, and self-regulation. As with all aspects of learning and development, students differ with respect to self-regulation as well. For example, self-regulation develops over time, and older students are better at self-regulating their learnings than their younger counterparts. But even students of the same age will differ considerably in the ability to regulate their cognitive behavior and emotions, and these differences are caused by both genetic and the environment. For example, when self-regulation breaks down, it will inevitably for all of us at times. Learners who have developed a greater sense of autonomy tend to react more effectively by making adaptations in their goals and approaches to both social and cognitive problem solving. And this suggests that we should be doing whatever we can to help learners acquire a sense of autonomy and independence when we work with young people. It can make a significant difference in the development of self-regulations. Also, gender differences in self-regulations also exist, particularly in the ability to resist potentially destructive impulses and substitute behavior that are more productive. For example, girls are more likely to discuss a disagreement and seek cognitive solution than boys, who are more inclined to behave aggressively in a similar circumstance, because brain development tends to progress more quickly in girls than boys, and differences in self-regulation can be found as early as kindergarten. Cultural differences exist as well. For instance, as a general pattern, students from East Asian cultures such as Chinese, Japanese, and Korean place a great deal of emphasis on self-discipline and emotional control. They also strongly emphasize the role of hard work and sustain efforts in academic success, and they develop self-regulated learning processes such as goal setting and monitoring and strategy use at an early age. Moving on to self-regulated learners, that is largely controlled by the prefrontal cortex of the brain. So the prefrontal cortex develops slower than other parts of the brain, which can result in adolescents relying more on the amygdala, leading to impulsive behavior. And this slower development of the prefrontal cortex can explain why teenagers are more likely to engage in risk-taking behaviors, because teenagers changing up hormones level during puberty can increase their sensitivity and reaction to stress, making it difficult to control aggressive impulses. And strategy for responding to this issue will be discussed in the next sessions by the next presenter. Thank you all for listening.
Now that we're done listening to the other part, let's look at the educational psychology and teaching using social cognitive theory. So basically, social cognitive theory has various range on how to apply it in the classroom, which can make significant changes to the students' learning ability as well. And there are a few suggestions that we can use SCT here. So the first one, to capitalize on modeling. Use modeling to be a great influencer and learning, as well as behaviors to basically put students in a modeling role and emphasize cognitive modeling. Also, we can use different guest roles to model to the student so that they can follow to be part of the inspiration for them, especially when they are learning in the classroom. And as you can see that when the students themselves are learning in a classroom, they sometimes tend to look at different people with many different backgrounds and achievements in order for them to be inspired by them and follow in their footsteps. And lastly, they can also model their own desirable behaviors and emotions that are acceptable to society as well as the classroom environment. To the second point, use vicarious reinforcement and punishment as learning as well as management tools. And in this part, we basically have to provide proper reinforcement and punishment to the students as well. And the student themselves will also learn what is right and what is wrong, because in the classroom we have to be very patient with the student, as well as show them the punishments or the consequences of the action that they have in the class. Not only that, it is a way to have a proper view on what they can do in order to fit themselves within their better in order to cooperate into society better. And lastly, they can promote self-regulation. To promote self-regulation, it basically will allow the classroom itself to be well regulated by us, the teacher, as well as the students themselves. And not only that, the classroom itself usually need to have established rules like raising their hands in order to have the permission to speak, as well as being quiet in class when the teacher is explaining things to the student. And this will allow the student to learn the proper thought process, as well as the proper judgment and responses to the classroom rules. However, all of these suggestions cannot work if they themselves do not have some kind of established rules to the class that have to be followed by everyone, especially as the facilitator or the teacher. It is essentially a way to enforce the classroom rules strictly as well as effectively as possible to ensure that the students themselves must be followed in order to have some kind of equally forced rule on everyone. The end. So to follow up here, we will look at the classroom connections and also a way to capitalize on social cognitive theory. Firstly, the cognitive modeling itself involves verbalizing your thinking as you are demonstrating a skill in class. And when we use cognitive modeling in your instruction, especially as a teacher, it will add it basically make it a way of you representing yourself as a role model for your student. When you represent yourself as a role model for your student, their student will also look up to you, as well as like respect you in terms of like being the teacher of your class, as well as like the facilitator of many different like teaching techniques that are happening in class as well. Secondly, is effective modeling requires the student to attend to a behavior, retain it in memory as well as reproduce it. So it is basically means that the student themselves have to participate, especially in like behavioral building in class, by building the like right behaviors that could be acceptable in class. The student themselves will later enforce it on their own, and by enforcing it on their own, they would have self-autonomy in order to develop their own behavior. Not only that, they will be able to reproduce it later on, even though they are either no longer your student or they are outside of the classroom itself. And the third point is that when learners observe a classmate being reinforced, they are vigorously reinforced by their own terms as well. So this is basically more of like the students themselves are observing their own classmate being either reinforced by the teacher themselves, and when when their classmate is being reinforced positively, especially in like having encouragement from the teacher, as well as like being encouraged to do different things and making changes to their studies, the student themselves, especially the other classmate, would also see like the others' mistake that they have made before, and then they will change it later on as well. And for the fourth point is like self-regulated learning is basically a process of like the student themselves taking responsibility of like learning on their own terms, as well as like taking responsibility of their own understanding to many different kinds of lessons as well. So this is basically of like a way of ensuring self-autonomy again, and by ensuring that the students themselves are being able to take responsibility for their own action inside the classroom, as well as like their own ways of understanding things. The students themselves would be able to have their own way of learning, as well as like being able to do things on their own without having the teacher to monitor them all. So that is all for my point.
Thank you very much for your attention and for watching our video through to the end. Our group actually is grateful of all of you. I hope we can provide you some insight too and a deeper understanding of the social cognitive series. You can ask any question or get in touch with our group if you have any question or are unclear on anything. Thank you very much.